In 1796, at the end of his presidency, George Washington gave a farewell address during which he tried to warn the American people about the dangers he perceived lie ahead, things that can destroy our country, that are most likely to destroy our country. He began his speech by saying, "Solicitude for your welfare, which cannot end but with my life, and the apprehension of danger natural to that solicitude, urge me, on an occasion like the present, to offer to your solemn contemplation, and to recommend to your frequent review, some sentiments which are the result of much reflection, of no inconsiderable observation, and which appear to me all important to the permanency of your felicity as a people. These will be offered to you with the more freedom, as you can only see them in the disinterested warning of a parting friend, who can possibly have no personal motive to bias his counsel." So basically he says, because I love this country and I love you, my people, I want to tell you about the dangers that lie ahead. And I am telling you this because I thought about it long and hard. And I think that what I am about to tell you is important for your happiness as a people. And I'm not telling you this because I'm running for re-election. I am telling you because I just want you to be safe and happy. He talks about a lot of things in his farewell address, but the one thing I want to touch on today is foreign influence. The reason why I want to touch on it is because I have been watching our government and our government official essentially pledge allegiance to Israel for months and months now. Some of our elected officials are wearing Israeli uniforms on Capitol Hill. All of our elected officials are literally pledging allegiance to Israel and saying, whatever you need, we will give you. They are giving billions and billions of dollars to a country that has been paying down their national debt because they were operating on surplus. A country that is not threatened by any stretch of imagination of being conquered or destroyed. It's not their buildings that are being destroyed. It's not their hospitals that are being destroyed. It's not their children that are being killed. They are the occupying power, and they are destroying buildings and hospitals in Gaza and murdering tens of thousands of children. And they are the ones bombing embassies in other countries and bombing other countries. They don't need help. But our government is still giving them billions of American dollars. They are allowing them to drag us into a war. So it is a clear and present danger. And George Washington spoke about this, and everybody needs to know this. He talked about passionate attachment between nations. So he said, don't ever do this. Do not have any kind of passionate attachment to a foreign nation. And this is exactly what our politicians have toward Israel. Now, whether that is because of AIPAC influence, because they are bribed, whatever, they have it. And George Washington warned against it. He said, a passionate attachment of one nation for another produces a variety of evils. Sympathy for the favored nation, facilitating the illusion of an imaginary common interest in cases where no real common interest exists, and infusing into one the enmities of the other, betrays the former into a participation in the quarrels and wars of the latter without adequate inducement or justification. Recently, Israel bombed an embassy in Syria. They bombed an Iranian embassy in Syria and killed a couple of generals and other people. If somebody did that to an American embassy anywhere in the world, for example, if Russia did that to an American embassy in Poland, we would go to war. We would understand that this is war, and our politicians would talk about terrorism and how barbaric the Russians are. But when it comes to Israel, because of this passionate attachment, it was barely mentioned. It was not even brought up in the United Nations or condemned by any stretch of imagination. And when Iran retaliated because of that reason, because nobody wanted to address it, now our politicians are talking about how we need to help Israel more, and they are constantly seeking to drag us into a war. And you have to understand, the reason why the Founding Fathers made the declaration of war so difficult is because they knew war was slavery. Look at what's happening in Ukraine now, where all men are eligible to be drafted, and they are being drafted. When you have a true war, you become a slave. They will take your children, they will take your money, they will take you, and they will put you somewhere to fight for them. There is no justification to involve the United States of America and our children, our brave service members, into wars for Israel, which they are trying to start to drag us into it. And this is what George Washington warned us about. And these people that are trying to drag us into a war with Iran, whether they be our politicians or these media personalities that are advocating for this, he talked about them. He said that this favored nation concept gives to ambitious, corrupted, or deluded citizens who devote themselves to the favored nation, in this case, there would be AIPAC and people like Ben Shapiro and others, facility to betray or sacrifice the interests of their own country without odium, sometimes even with popularity, gilding, which means golden flake, like golden covering, with the appearance of a virtuous sense of obligation, a commendable deference for public opinion, or a laudable zeal for public good. So he basically says, when you create this mentality of a foreign nation, it gives an opportunity to ambitious, corrupted, or deluded citizens who devote themselves to a foreign nation the ability to betray their own country. Now, they're saying, oh, is pro-Israel this? They made pro-Israel sound good, like they are our only ally, our favorite nation. So they created that mentality, and then anything they say in support of this country that is clearly trying to drag us into a war and is using us, they appear to be patriotic, but they are deluded. Then George Washington said, as avenues to foreign influence in innumerable ways, such attachments are particularly alarming to the truly enlightened and independent patriot. So Washington said, if you are a patriot, what these people are doing vis-a-vis Israel now, creating this favored nation status and then betraying American interests so they can support a foreign nation, if you are a patriot, you should be alarmed by this. He said, how many opportunities do they afford to tamper with domestic factions, to practice the art of seduction, to mislead public opinion, to influence or awe the public councils? Such an attachment of a small or weak towards a great and powerful nation dooms the former to be the satellite of the latter. Against the insidious vials of foreign influence, I conjure you to believe me, fellow citizens. The jealousy of a free people ought to be constantly awake, since history and experience prove that foreign influence is one of the most baneful foes of the Republican government. George Washington says that if we do not wake up and start taking care of America first and seeing that we are being manipulated by agents of a foreign power, whether it be Israel or something else, but in this case I'm talking about Israel because they have the most influence in our government, that if we don't wake up, we're going to be destroyed. We're going to get bankrupt. We're going to be dragged into war after war after war, all to the detriment of American people. It's your children. It's my children. And it's our money, our economy. It's our prestige, our ability to trade with people that is being sacrificed so Israelis can enforce apartheid in the West Bank, so they can continue their illegal immigration into West Bank that isn't even Israel, so they can continue to murder and bomb indiscriminately in terrorist attacks all over the Middle East, so they can continue to do all these things, enforce racism and freaking theocracy in Israel itself, where you have to be of a certain religion in order to become an automatic citizen, and if you lived there, if you were chased out of there through ethnic cleansing, you can't even go back and claim your own home. And they say they're a democracy. No, they're a theocracy. We have nothing in common with them. George Washington literally warned us about this because he loved this country. And every American patriot should realize this.